hopefully with any luck this will be right in shot and everything. Oh god. Okay, does somebody want to bring me that? Thank you. Hey. Oh, careful. Good. Alright, so we just had a hell of a lot of processing. We did really, really, really fucking well, and I'm like not half as spacey from trauma as I would usually be. I am also way more depressed, and I have experienced grief in my chest that is like, oh my god. It was so physically painful. I thought I was going to throw up, and then it defied reality. I was like, what the fuck do I do with this? Sorry, that's probably really loud. I'm trying to make sure it doesn't do that. But yeah, that was, oh, Jesus Christ. Usually grief is like a dull ache at our chest, and it's like semi-relieving. Like, I imagine it would be to get poison out of a wound or something. The decompression of the swelling, it's painful as hell, and there's relief. But this was like, there's so much pain. Vince said it felt similar to like splitting, but without the tearing sensation and the sort of segmenting away off, like without other components. But there was a bit of it that was like the pain in the chest when we split. Like the level of the ache was just, hey, good dog. Good dog. Do you not want treats for it? Alright. You want me to just throw it? You don't want a treat? Because... okay then. And it was a friend knowing about, hey, some of the shit that's happened in our lives. Oh, I can say Poe, I forgot Poe. Because you've said it's weird to suddenly address you in a video. Because she said, because I asked, and it was okay to use her / your name. So I'm just remembering that. But God, it was really helpful. She had put together some things from stuff we had told her about our lives and made sense of it. And she had a private video with us explaining some things that she saw and putting some things into place. And her response to it, it's like, when we see someone have a normal, proportionate emotional response to the sort of shit that's happened to us, it's like, well, for a start, it doesn't strike me as like, even though that's the normal response, it doesn't feel like that's the normal response. It feels like so validating and so relieving and so incredible that could be, like, my brain goes, wait, we can respond like that? Oh, so this like deep hurt we had at the time of these experiences and the feelings of being hurt that we thought we had to stuff down, or that we did have to stuff down and just ignore, those were actually right and shouldn't have been ignored, and this response is appropriate. And it's like, man, it's like it gives my brain freedom to understand what emotional responses it can take where they're not modelled, and I'm not familiar with them. So suddenly I was like, we were thinking about these experiences. We not really suddenly, because it's like my brain's been on those for a while anyway. Again, I've just starting to process trauma about our whole lives. And good dog. Good dog. It's like realizing there's an extra layer of permission to have emotions about things and be like, oh, I'm not weird or embarrassing, or like there is nothing, insert list of invalidating remarks about having these emotions to do with this. Those are right and healthy, and then it's like the experience itself comes into reality more. And that's great. That's tops. That's exactly what we're going for here. But also, when the experience starts to come more into reality, it's like walking a razor's edge to try and process it, because as it becomes real, layers to it that I maybe dissociated from as it was happening hit me. And at the time of these experiences, I never really had the emotional response, or I wasn't aware of it, or it was distanced from me, I'm not really sure. But it feels like getting to a place where I can have the emotional response instead of the fight or flight, like life in danger response, is how I process things. And I'm so fucking proud of how we just dealt with this entire experience, because it was like, walking this razor's edge sort of between shock of going, oh, holy shit, these things were real, and like feeling an embodied sense of what the word real means after a lifetime of dissociating and living in derealization and depersonalization, and like feeling a bit like my experiences are just a movie. That a lot of time when we're loading in memories and it suddenly hits us that it was real and that it happened, we can go into shock. We'll just get ice cold. It's like all the blood just seeps back into our organs to survive. We just like break apart from reality and floating in ice water sort of feelings. And going white and like, like proper shock. So if the body goes into shock, it feels like I don't integrate the information. I don't know whether or not factually this is true, just it seems to repeat until that doesn't happen. And I can remember and experience things from the memory without going into shock. And then I tend to feel a sense of like that memory will stop coming up on repeat, and it'll feel more, I'll feel more whole and also more depressed, which is how I feel right now. So it was very, very impressive, I thought, even at the time, watching us run this very fine line, and like, having to keep everything so regulated to be able to experience grief and process emotions about the experience instead of going into shock. It's like a lot. Like, it starts with breathing and remembering to do so at the appropriate times, which is way harder than just saying that in a sentence can make it seem. And like, there's like a lot of having to Man, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like learning how to do a really physical thing like rock climb or surf, and you just kind of feel the impact of the memory as it comes to mind, and then instead of letting that impact like knock you out of your body, you've got to like remember to breathe and slowly come back into your body and get a part of your brain online that can remember to do those things, that can remember that the goal is being in your body. And then it's like this, it's almost like breathing. It's like this constant try and relax and feel an embodied sense of safety in the current moment, in the present, supported enough in the present, and capable enough with everything around you to be able to feel the impact of the pain and the trauma from that memory that you never got a chance to really, that we never got a chance to feel in the moment because it was too busy being like, hey, we need to survive this. And it feels like you do all the work to feel that sort of sense of safety, like grounding to the room and reassurance and knowing what things to say to yourself and what your brain and body need to hear to understand that we're reviewing a memory and not re-experiencing it, even though it does feel like you're re-experiencing it because the body responds as if it's happening now and your nervous system does. And it's like being able to regulate and experience that and be with that fully without dissociating away from intensive emotions and body sensations of emotions, and at the same time not letting the severity and the impact of those things knock you out of your body again, which they do a bit for me anyway, just for a bit. So it's like more of a cyclical grounding to the point where I feel safe enough to feel it, feeling a few minutes or seconds of this grief pain that I can't even fucking describe in my chest that just hurts like a hoarse throat, like you can't breathe. And then I generally get like a bit of a thought when I'm about to dissociate, which is like, what do I even do? It's almost like it's too much. Like, what do I do with this level of, what do I do with it is the thing I tend to think. And then I'm a bit floaty and I don't really notice. Time goes a bit weird, and then the next thing I notice is usually Vince being like, hey, do you fancy breathing? Or like, let's get up and do something. Or just like casually, without bringing my awareness in a shocking way to the fact that I'm starting to drift off, just bringing me back down. And then Ryan, I don't know if he notices that he's doing this, but he joins in a way that helps and engages me in a way that brings me back into the room or hugs us. It's very fucking helpful. It's like I'll only just notice that I'm floating off and get pulled back down again. And then there's like quite a few minutes of work to become grounded in the body again. And then once this happens, it's like the impact of the sensation and of the trauma again. And then like bracing through that and being able to feel it wash over me and envelop me without it knocking me out of the body. And just like, it's kind of rinse repeat between those dynamics, which is why I'm just like, it's like surfing or rock climbing. It's like this flow between these states where the goal seems to be to remain in the body and feel and process as much of the painful sensation as we can before it drives us out of our body in desperation or insanity, and then breathing and restabilizing and regrounding and comforting each other and ourselves and self-soothing, I guess, until we feel back in the body and the present moment and safe enough again for that reality to hit us again, and then more minutes of the sensation. And it's like I'm kind of familiar with the flow and the movement between working out how to stabilize and what things to do to bring yourself down into this state and allow the emotions to bring you up and be with them without it taking you off. Like, I'm getting used to the flow of the sort of movement of these things. God knows only with Vince and Ryan and help, and just the fucking anchoring that they do between those states. it doesn't take me longer floating off now, at least, to be like, oh, I noticed that I'm not processing information, and at least remembering to breathe. And then as I load back into the body, like this time, as I was breathing, I was taking deep breaths, and I started getting racing thoughts and thinking, but that's really reality, and like going into like, I didn't notice, because I don't notice as it's happening, but just as I was starting to become aware of the fact, I don't think I was even becoming aware of it yet, just my thoughts were beginning to speed up and race, and Vince was like, slow down on the breathing a bit, and I was like, oh, okay, and like simple instructions are what I need in that state, because I can't really focus on a lot of them, so I just focused on my breathing and slowed that down. But it's like my understanding of the passage of time goes weird as well. So if he hadn't said slow it down, I would have thought that was a slow speed. So the fact that he is able to be like, slow it down a bit, and like slower than I think is normal, and him counting the seconds instead of me counting the seconds with my distorted time perception. And then I noticed that my thoughts were starting to race, but they, just as I noticed it, they started to slow down again. And I was like, oh, my teeth feel like they're buzzing. And he was like, yeah, don't worry, that was just like the panic attack that we skirted by. Like, it starts to feel very much like you're steering a ship and guiding it around jagged rocks at times, knowing when to lower and hoist the sail. We've been playing Sea of Thieves, but it always has felt a bit like being on the water in some vessel or another. It's just usually I have felt like we were in the ocean in a storm without a ship, and then it became a surfboard, and now it does feel a bit more like a ship. So it's like the sense of safety and stability, I guess, from us is increasing enough to know that there are things we can do to adjust the mainsail and like turn to pull against the wind, and you know, there are things we can do to guide our body through these experiences in a way that makes them healthy and productive rather than totally destabilizing us. Because this was only like, what, 4 hours? Only like 4 hours. Only like 4 hours work. And now I feel very heavy. We went through a period of time where like, dude, we got up to try and walk and just like staggered backwards into a wall. Like, I really couldn't fucking stand for a little bit there. And then just breathing so hard, it's like, it feels like I've run a marathon. And now with enough of that regulating and stuff, a few, like, we sort of went up and down into the grief 2 or 3 times overall, I think. And then I was able to, I felt this overwhelming sense of relief and gratitude. And now I'm kind of just level there. I'm not like going in and out of shock. I'm just, it's hard to not go into a state of disbelief about our lives and our experiences. And I think about them and I remain in my body at this point. And I just become aware that my body is so fucking heavy. My voice is hard to lift. You gotta run further, bud. Run. Just run. Yeah. It's hard to breathe. Everything's heavy. Yeah, Papa. You do spin. Right down. Good boy. Could you go flat? Beautiful. How about a sit? Well done. Could I give you your left paw? Yes. How about your right? How about your right? Yeah. You're so good. Grounding. Co-regulating with dogs. I cuddled them for ages. But it's like, man, it's so interesting to me to notice and feel the change in regulation and soothing and know the things you got to do to like expand and contract with the body and at which times to be able to make it something you can stabilize from and endure and go through the experience of, rather than it becoming so overwhelming that you like cut out. Come here, Bram. Come here, Bram. Good dog. Can you go down? How about flat? Kiko. Oh, we're done. Sit. Can you do a spin? Oh, we're done. Bramble. Good. Oh, you thief. You thief. Good dog. And then doing things to engage my cognitive mind a little bit. We listen to some music. Very helpfully, I think, in those states of floating trauma, explaining what I'm experiencing, even just saying something like, I feel dizzy, my face is tingling, my lips and teeth feel like they're vibrating. Like, I think there's something to be said about keeping on social engagement systems while having really horrible experiences. I think it does something that makes it easier to keep a part of the brain online. I don't know. Like, seriously, need to research this stuff, but every time we research it, we get destabilized because too much shit makes sense too quickly. Because we can track from our body language and behavior and go, oh, that must mean this has happened, and it's like, oh. So this is why I'm always like, I think it's this, and I can't just go and research it. I have to research slowly. We have so many books. Careful. Yeah, good catch. Oh, now I'm just heavy whenever I'm in my body. I keep periodically remembering to be in my body with the grief that's there and like, carry it. It's so fucking heavy. My chest hurts. It feels like it's getting crushed. And like I have to breathe out and expand and carry this weight and make sure that my shoulders are straight doing so. I cannot even tell you the amount of fucking literally physical strength it takes to carry grief. I try so that if it happens to you, you're not taken off guard by it and you go, oh, this is normal. This is healthy, this is good. My understanding of the word good has drastically changed since starting therapy. So I'm really fucking proud of us. Really fucking proud of us. There is like so much work that we've put into being able to run things as efficiently. I did skate very close to a panic attack, but I have an amazing co-pilot, an amazing partner, and amazing friends, and amazing little dogs. And I wanted to see if I could kick in heels. That was like the whole point that I was putting on these shoes for. So we did kind of come out of that one. I feel like I feel closer to parts of me. I feel closer to our history. I feel it's more real. And I feel a hell of a lot more pain. And I think that's the appropriate, maybe the only appropriate response to these things becoming more real to me. I'm really fucking proud of us. That was a lot of work. And I have taken care of some dogs, and they look really happy about it, so I'm doing good. Experiencing some real hell, and we're experiencing it together, and well supported in it, so we hope that your experiences of hell are sustainable and integratable and interspersed with frequent periods of relief and soothing. Much love, folks.